2, 1.
Hey, all right. Welcome back. You are watching Liquid Lunch on Biz TV. I'm John Tobacco. We're coming to you live as we do every single day, noon to 2 Eastern from the Corona Bunker Studios. Yep, right here in Staten Island, New York. It's a beautiful day. It's a Freaky Friday edition of Liquid Lunch, and it's going to get funny a little later on, and it may even get fanny a little later on, because on Fridays we have some of our fans and friends out there in the audience who call in and sound off on things. One of the only shows on television is that interactive, that we bring our fans' thoughts, ideas, and even them themselves on the show. Now, we've been covering the monotony all week of this Democratic National Convention where they're wheeling Joe Biden out there and all these recorded messages, and it's like Weekend at Bernie's. He's always got Jill by his side, holding his hand like a nurse attendant. But if you really dig into some of his financial plans, which are being crafted with the help of America's #1 socialist, Bernie Sanders, who looks like maybe the financial czar, they're talking about all kinds of eliminating all the Trump tax cuts. And then you're talking about going from 21 to 35% on corporate tax. You're talking about a massive hike in the capital gains tax. You're talking about a wealth tax coming back. And you're going to be sitting there the day after the election, if Joe Biden actually gets into office, and you're going to have a pile in front of you that you don't know what to do with. What you need to do is take a listen to this guy and even reach out to him if you have to. Toby Mathis joins us right now. He is an expert in this area. He's a founding partner of Anderson Law Group, current manager of Anderson's Vegas office. And Toby has been part of the team that's grown the practice from one business and estate planning to a thriving tax practice, national registered agent service, and servicing about 18,000 clients. And Toby, me, my staff, everybody watching this show, along with your 18,000 clients, are in for some seriously rocky times if Joe Biden gets into it. Break this down for us, what we're looking at here.
Yeah, so Joe Biden, originally what he first talked about was increasing the capital gains tax, saying, hey, that's going to be, it's unfair that they lowered it. And what he really wants to do is get it back up to that 28% marker, which is going to cause everybody that has capital gains to dump their stocks or their assets that would trigger those capital gains. And so you'd see a bit of a sell-off, first off, of people just trying to get in before they raise that rate. And then he's also talked about increasing the corporate taxes, which would just reverse the Tax Cut and Jobs Act cut that Trump passed, or that the Congress passed under Trump, where they lowered it to 21%. And the problem that you have is that's what made the United States competitive worldwide for business. And you saw a big inflow of business and a fantastic economy as a result. So God knows what's going to happen if they undo that right at the tail end of a pandemic.
Yeah, it sure seems scary to me. And, just explain this one. Explain this one to me if you can. Right now, I believe the capital gains tax, long-term capital gains and dividends, is 15%. And Joe Biden is talking about taking that back up to 28%. Now, if people wake up on November 4th and Joe Biden is somehow the president, if people start selling and taking all their gains in 2020, will they be immune from a tax increase in 2021, or will they go retroactive?
No, they can't go backwards. What you would have is a tax hit on the date that they sell, and that date's going to be controlling. And long-term capital gains is dependent on your tax bracket. It could actually be 0, 15, or 20%. And so what Biden wants to do is jump that amount up to 28%, or there has been some talk about making ordinary rates, which could go as high as 37% if we're looking at the tax code now. Right now, short-term capital gains are already taxed at the ordinary rate. So they're just trying to jump that up. And you would see a sell-off for sure, which would be good in that it would cause some short-term tax revenue for the government, but it would be very bad for the markets because you'd have people trying to capture their gains and you'd have a sell-off. And so you'd have what would happen anytime they start talking about selling or raising taxes. You'd have people say, "Hey, would I rather pay 20% now, or should I risk holding it on for another year and getting hit with that 28%?" And a lot of people will opt to take that. I'll pay the 20% now.
Right. Well, people are going to be looking at it like, all right, I've had this stock for a while. I'm up on it. I can pay 15%, maybe even as bad as 20%. But if Joe Biden comes in and I'm at 15, it goes to 28. It's almost 100% increase in the capital gains tax. So I think it will cause like a monumental sell-off. And people aren't really factoring that in right now, that their IRAs and their 401ks and all that other stuff are going to be affected significantly.
Yeah, I mean, it's the individual taxpayer that's going to get hit with that capital gain side. So you're going to see the people dumping it. For the 401ks and those, they're exempt. So they shouldn't see too much of an issue, because that's going to be taxed as ordinary income when you take it out. So what it will do is it'll affect those by causing a short-term drop. Like the market should react in a negative way, because people are going to say, "Hey, I'm not going to hold on. There's no incentive for me to continue to hold this. I'm going to take my profit now." And as we've always seen, when people start taking their profits, the market drops.
Right. I wasn't necessarily referring to, that they would get unfavorable treatment from a tax perspective, but all the stocks and mutual funds that they hold in their IRA and 401k are going to see the notional values drop significantly, and those big drops are hard to get back.
Absolutely. And here's the funny math, and people are dishonest about this. If you have a 20% drop or a 10% drop, let's just use 10%. If it comes back up 10%, you're not back to even. When you have a 10% drop, you're going to a certain number. So let's say you drop from $1 down to 90 cents. So you drop 10%, then you increase 10%, you're at 99 cents. You're not back to your dollar. It takes a lot of increase in the market to make up losses. And so when you have these artificial losses that get manufactured by a tax law, you need to factor that in. You shouldn't be doing this stuff blindly like they're throwing out there. And I doubt they would. I think that Congress would have much more of an issue with this, even if Biden wants to increase things. It really is going to depend on Congress at the end of the day. Talk
to me about, they're talking about Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. Some states are already trying to get it in. There's this, wealth tax, where part of Joe Biden's plan is he wants to charge people tax on money they've already been taxed on. So how bad is that?
Yeah. That's been, so when I first got into practice, we had an exemption for the federal estate tax, that's the tax you're talking about. There's federal and there's state, where they'll tax your estate after you die. So yeah, they tax you all along the way, and then when you pass, they tax you again. And I think it was 600,000. Now it's up to over 11 million. So people don't really think about it. It's still there, but they would lower it and increase it. And the states are getting into the act. And they're just looking at it saying, hey, there's all these billionaires out there, and when they pass away, we want to nail that money. We want to get as much as we can into the treasury. And I don't blame them. That's easy money. But it's absolutely catastrophic if you know how they calculate. So I could be a small business owner, and I could have a very valuable business, and I pass away, and my family has to pay tax on that. That could be pretty brutal, because that means they're selling things to pay the tax, and quite often, depending on the economy, it's not easy to sell. And so you have this tax bill that causes you to have to sell the business that was transferred to your heirs. And that's why they say it's so brutal to small business owners, especially. And really, there should be some other things we can come up with. There can be some incentives that they can come up with to raise revenues. It's a complete lie that the Tax Cut and Jobs Act reduced taxes. Tax revenues went up on individuals. They went down slightly on businesses, but overall tax revenue went up, exactly what they said and exactly what conservative commentators and people that know business would say, which you get more of something if you tax it less. Now, you can't go to zero, but certainly you don't want to be hitting it at 50%. There's a magic number in there. And I think they're close when they're looking at that 20, 21% that they do on the corporate tax. It means that businesses are willing to pay it. They're not going to do as much to try to defer it
Right.
or to avoid it. You nail that thing up to 35, 39%, people are going to do everything they can to avoid it.
No doubt about it. All right. Well, Toby, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your insights. And if God forbid this happens, we're going to need to call on you more and more to keep people in the know on what they need to know. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
That's Toby Mathis, founding partner of Anderson Law Group and current manager of Anderson's Vegas office, talking to you about what you need to know about your taxes. We'll take a quick break, come back more with a Freaky Friday edition of Liquid Lunch right after this.